Welcome to Voices from the Streets. My name is Sandy Griffin, and today we have a little bit of a different show. I was going to be interviewing a young man named Richard, and we had agreed to meet downtown after I served the homeless under the bridge. So I got my camera and my microphones, and I went looking where we had agreed to meet, and Richard wasn't there. And that's one of the downsides of working with the homeless, is that many times they're not dependable, and as much as I love them, there's sometimes a reason why they are where they are. It doesn't mean that they need to be loved any less. Sometimes it means they need to be loved more. So I went downtown and I drove around to the place where we were going to meet, and I looked for Richard and he wasn't there. But it was close to Bicentennial Park. And so I drove around looking for some of the homeless that were there to see if I could interview one of them. I saw two sitting there, and I went over, and Mitchell, a nice young man, was sitting talking to a young lady, Melissa. And I had asked them if I could tape them, and both of them promptly said no, that today they didn't feel like being taped. But I got to sit down with them, and it was such a gift. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of share what I learned from some of the homeless that I saw when I was in the park. As I sat with them and talked to them, Mitchell had told me that he had been staying not far from the bridge where we serve and Bicentennial Park where I saw him. But then he looked at me and had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Miss Sandy, I'm going to be losing my home." And I asked him why, and he said they're going to be putting in a parking lot. And he's camped there for 4 years. And I looked at him, and his eyes got all red, tears in his eyes, and he said, "I'm losing my home." And I thought how strange it is that a homeless person who found a place to camp where he felt safe, it had become his neighborhood and his home. And without talking to him, without asking him, they just went in and they just kind of bulldozed his area. So now he's like everyone else, looking for a bush to hide behind, a piece of sidewalk that's safe, someplace where they're obscure. And like he said, that it's very quiet there. Well, I started talking to Melissa, and she has money to pay for a room. She said she can pay up to $150 a week, and yet she can't find anything. There aren't any vouchers, or if there's vouchers, there aren't any places to get rooms. And she was very sad. And then she mentioned that we're in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and yet the churches help when it's cold out for 5 months, and then they close their doors to the homeless as if they don't exist for the next 7 months. Does something seem wrong to anyone else about this? Well, that wasn't the only thing I did then. Is I saw sitting at different picnic tables there, I saw a couple more of the guys, and I went up to James, and I hadn't seen him for a long time. So I asked him if I could interview him, and he said not today. And so I sat with him, and I said, "So you know what?" I said, he asked me what I was doing, and I said, I like to interview the homeless and let people get to know them and their struggles and their triumphs and just fall in love with them like we do. And he said, "But I'm not homeless." And I said, "You're not? You have a place?" He said, "Yes, I have a camp. And when I don't sleep there, I sleep under the bridge or at a friend's house, so I'm not homeless." And I thought, how amazing is that? That sometimes homeless is just a state of mind. That here people live in their homes and they feel all alone and like the world has deserted them. So in a lot of ways, people that have homes are more homeless than those that don't have 4 walls. Well, then I saw David was sitting at another table, and he stood up and he came over and gave me a hug. And I asked him if I could interview him. And he said, "Not tonight." I guess nobody was in the mood to share their stories today. And he told me that he works full time. And I asked him what he was saving his money for, and he said, "I'm going to buy a car." And he said, "I have a account at Wells Fargo." And he said, "I'm accumulating money," but he said, "I can't afford a room and a car both. And to get a better job, I need to have a car." So he told me that he's saving all his money for the car, but he stays at the mission. And not that he likes it, but he said it's what I have to do to be able to get the car. The struggles for the homeless are real, and I don't know what the answers are. But I have felt in these last months like there's just such a sadness, like we don't have the government behind us helping them find a place. Those that have money and want to get a room, we're wiping out all of the affordable housing. And talking to these people tonight, I couldn't help but wonder what the answers are. And being in Nashville, I couldn't help but wondering where the churches are and what they're doing. And if they're inside the four walls telling people about Jesus and how Jesus would act, and then the services are over and they lock their doors and go to their homes and drive past the homeless. Thank you for joining me. This is Sandy Griffin from Voices from the Streets.